Hi guys, welcome to my channel Confessions of a Gaming Mum. So today I wanted to talk about my own postpartum recovery. I wanted to record this video for multiple reasons basically. Firstly, I think just to have it on the channel as just a reference and it's archived. I've got my own experience down, then it's there, so people that like in the future, if they want to hear about my experience, they can go back and watch it. Also, I can go back and watch it a few years down the line and actually remind myself of what I actually went through after having a baby. Also, it's just as a way of sharing my own experience about how I recovered from after giving birth. Just so if there's any mums to be out there that are just not sure on what to expect, or if you've just had a baby and you're feeling all these different things and you don't know if it's right or if it's healthy or whatever, then at least my experience might be able to help you. Obviously everyone's experience is different and everyone heals differently, but it might actually be something that you can go, oh yeah, I have that, at least I know I'm pretty normal. So yeah, that's why I just thought I'd do this video. Trying to think of where to start really. Firstly, I suppose I should start with the fact that I gave birth to my son with the use of forceps. I should probably warn people as well, there will be a lot of TMI in this again, so if you don't want to know a lot about my intimate stuff, then don't watch it from here on. But yeah, so my son was born via forceps because he had a big head, was back to back, and so got stuck. And because I had to have forceps, it meant I had to be cut underneath. And the way they cut you, it's not exactly very pleasant. But I also tore while I was pushing him out, and I think it was a 3rd degree tear. So you have 4 degrees that you can, like 4 type of tears that you can have, obviously 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. 1st is kind of, I think, just like a graze that you'll get like when the baby's being pushed out. Like it doesn't really even count as anything, so you might just be a bit sore, you don't have to have stitches or anything like that. 2nd is when there is basically like there is a physical tear that you can see, but it's just, I think it's just like the tissue. It's not really like a really bad tear, so you might have to have a few stitches. 3rd degree is when I think it's tissue and it's muscle as well. So because obviously because when they talk about the tears, it's actually a tear between your vagina and your bum hole. Again, pleasant. So a 3rd degree tear, I'm pretty sure it's when it's the muscles torn as well as the tissue, so you need quite a few stitches. But obviously a 4th degree is basically when everything's torn and you've just basically got one big hole down there. So it's actually quite bad. And yeah, 3rd degree, obviously that's what I had. I didn't actually know I had that until afterwards. I'd been in hospital, I guess, 2 days, and a woman came round who was kind of like a physiotherapist kind of person. I'd actually done a class with her before my son was born about the different ways that you can labour and when the different positions you can be in for birth. And she works at the hospital, and yeah, and she actually told me, she was going through my notes and she was the one that actually told me that I'd torn. Obviously I knew I'd been cut because I had to have forceps, but no one actually had said to me about the fact that I'd torn as well. So she was telling me obviously about how to take care of myself, and she was the one that gave me, because I had to take laxatives to make sure that I didn't strain too much on the toilet, to tell me just how to clean myself, bath with tea tree oil and different things like that. And she also talked about, again, your postpartum recovery in terms of for the first 6 weeks, you shouldn't be doing this. You should like rest up, you should try and do as little as possible. You shouldn't be lifting your baby in the car seat. So obviously the only thing you should be lifting, the heaviest thing you should be lifting is your baby. So anything heavier than your baby is just no go. So like she said, so lifting your baby is fine, but if you put the baby in the car seat, get your husband or your partner or your mum or dad or whatever to lift the baby in the car seat for you. You shouldn't be doing that, because obviously you've got the strain of your underneath, but also with your stomach muscles as well, because you have to make sure your stomach muscles come back together. And unfortunately I don't think I took that too seriously. I mean, I didn't do any, because I physically could not do any heavy lifting. Like I said in my previous video, if you watched it, I could barely lift my son for more than like 30 seconds. So my back was just gone. So I weren't doing a lot of heavy lifting, but I wasn't, because she was also saying about how you get out of bed. So you roll onto your side, put your legs over the side of the bed and lift yourself up that way. You should not be lifting, like sitting up straight away, or getting your husband to lift, like even if he like takes your hand and pulls you up that way, that's still engaging your core muscles, and you shouldn't be doing that. I think I did that quite a few times and I shouldn't have done. And yeah, just loads of different things like that. And she was quite helpful actually, and gave me a lot of information, loads of pamphlets as well about how to look after myself. So like I said, I was a bit naughty and didn't really look after my stomach too much. After birth, I was getting up from the sofa and from the bed in the ways that I shouldn't have been. And considering I had such a big baby, see if I can post a picture of how big my bump was. I'll put it like here or something. Yeah, because I had such a big baby, my stomach muscles were so stretched anyway that I should really have been paying attention to what was going on with it. Because in the end, what I basically suffer from, again I mentioned this in the other video, was something called diastasis recti, and that's basically when your stomach muscles stretch so much during pregnancy. Or you can actually have this, you don't have to be pregnant to have it. I don't know what sort of situations you need to be in for this to happen, but pregnancy is the most common reason it will happen. And it's where your stomach muscles, obviously they stretch out through the pregnancy to obviously accommodate the baby, and you've got like this little strip of tissue down the middle, and that stretches so much, and obviously if you've got a big baby then it struggles to get back, or if you don't look after your stomach muscles then it will struggle to shrink back to normal. And that's basically what's happened, is the yeah, that bit in the middle is just sort of stayed where it is when my muscles should be sort of contracting and coming back together. Originally, because I had quite a big bump after my son had been born, and I thought because they say about your uterus, I think it takes quite a while, at least 6 weeks or something like that, for your uterus to actually get back down to normal. But it could take up to 6 months or something like that, I think I read, or I'm probably just making it up now. But I know it can take quite a while for your uterus to actually get back down to where it was. And I actually thought the fact that my stomach was so big, I actually thought that was because of my uterus. I thought it had just been stretched so much that it was just going to take a while to get back down. But it was only when I got to, I think my son must have been about 6 months, when obviously my stomach had gone down quite a lot, but it hadn't gone down fully, and I started to get really self-conscious about it and everything. And then I asked, I think on one of the mum groups, and someone actually said to me, because I'd never heard of diastasis recti before, it was only that this woman mentioned it, and she said, oh, you should get yourself checked out by a physiotherapist. So I was waiting for ages. I got in touch with my GP, because basically, well, here, I don't know if it's the same anywhere else, but what we have to do here, because once you've had a baby, you get like checkups from your midwife, like who basically comes under the hospital or whatever, and you have like health visitors come to check the health of the baby, your health, like your mental health, your physical health. Midwife checks the stitches underneath if you have had stitches and everything, just to make sure everything's okay and that you're okay and you're handling everything all right. And I think that goes up to 6 weeks after the baby's born. Again, it's the magical number, 6 weeks. Yeah, and they go up to 6 weeks, and then after that you're signed off, and then you're not a priority anymore. So in those 6 weeks, if you want to see anyone, or you want to take your baby to the hospital or whatever, you will be a priority. But once you've been signed off, it's kind of like, no, you're just the same as everyone else. You can wait in line like everyone else. So yes, so when it came to wanting to get to see a physiotherapist about my stomach, they said, oh, you need to speak to your GP, and he can confirm if it's what you think it is or whatever, and then refer you to a physiotherapist. So I had to have an appointment with a doctor to talk about it. He checked my stomach and he was just like, yeah, I think it's, I agree with what you think it is, it's diastasis recti, so I'll put you down to see the physiotherapist. It took another 6 weeks before actually ever hearing anything, and I was just so frustrated with it. And at the end of that 6 weeks, they actually said, because what I originally would have had to have done is go to the hospital to see the physiotherapist there, because there was no physiotherapist at my GP. But after that 6 weeks, I kept ringing and saying, look, have you heard anything? I don't know if a referral's actually been put in, because I still haven't heard anything. And they're like, yeah, it's been put in, you should hear from the physiotherapist soon to book an appointment. And that was the thing, it's like I had to wait up to 6 weeks to even receive a letter telling me when the appointment was going to be. It wasn't 6 weeks of me waiting to see a physiotherapist. It was waiting for an appointment to see a physiotherapist. So that was obviously frustrating. So at the end of the 6 weeks, I was just really fed up with it, and I was just, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then I got a phone call from the GP, and they basically said, oh yeah, we've actually got a physiotherapist that comes in once a week to the surgery now, so you can come to us rather than having to wait for the hospital. So I was like, for God's sake. But yeah, so I went to see him, and he confirmed it was diastasis recti, and he just gave me some exercises to do. And he said, do them as many times a day as you can. And he said, and it really depends on how severe it is, to like how quickly it goes down. He said it could take a month, it could take 6 months, you just don't know. And he said, and obviously it depends on how often you do them as well. And to be honest, I only do them, like I only really find the time to do them first thing in the morning, before like my son's woken up or when he's taking his morning nap. So that's the only time I really feel like I can get to do them. So I would prefer to do them like 2-3 times a day, but it's when I can do them, like, because I've got so much other stuff to do around the house, so it gets a bit frustrating. Like I'm just happy to try and get it in once a day. And to be honest, it has made a lot of difference since doing it. I'll see if I can post, because I sucked in my pride and decided that I was going to do some video of like the before and after. So I'll see if I can post a video here. So I don't think it looks like a lot of difference in the video, but I notice a difference in terms of like I can feel it in my stomach, because it's really weird how my stomach looks really big and round, and you think it'd be like really squidgy, but it's not. It's squidgy underneath, because obviously that's just all flabby skin that's been stretched when I was pregnant. But the top bit is still quite hard, where the muscles just have not come back together. They're still like stuck in a weird position. But the one thing I've noticed like massively is my back. I'm able, like when I first started the exercises, I could barely lift my son's high chair. So we've got it in the cupboard under the stairs, and we get it out for like his lunch and dinner and stuff. I could barely lift it out without like really struggling to get it out the cupboard. Now I'm completely fine doing it. I used to suffer really badly as well when I stood up washing up. I like had to take a break because I couldn't lean over the sink to wash up for too long. Couldn't stand up for too long. I was like 5 minutes, and then I was just like, my back is killing me, I need to sit down. But I mean, I still get every so often like really bad backache. Like if I'm lying in bed and feeding my son, I might get a really bad backache. Or if I'm got a lot of washing up to do, or I've been like stood up cooking, only have 5 minutes to sit down to eat, and then I'm stood up washing again, that can be a bit much. But yeah, I've noticed so much difference in the amount, like since starting those exercises. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that my muscles have gone back down to normal. So I'm still doing them, but what my main goal is now is just trying to lose the rest of my baby weight. Because that was another thing as well. I think I gained about 40 pounds in my pregnancy. I gained a lot of weight. A lot of that was water as well, because I take after my mum and my sister in terms of water retention with pregnancy, which was quite bad. Like my ankles and my feet just swell so badly. And I get that in the heat as well anyway, and like when I travel on planes and stuff, like my hands swell up and feet and my ankles. Like I suffered really badly when me and my husband went on our honeymoon to New Zealand. My feet swelled up, something chronic, it was disgusting. But yeah, it was really annoying, but it's unfortunately something we've been born with, can't do anything about. But yeah, so I retained a lot of water when I was pregnant, and it was insane. In the first week after my son was born, I lost 20 pounds. 10 pounds of that was pretty much just my son. Like he was 9 pounds 7 when he was born. So yeah, half of that was him, and the rest was just fluid and obviously like the placenta and everything else. So yeah, so I've lost slowly since then, but I'm still like, I think it got to like, it was quite steadily like 3-4 pounds a week I was losing quite a lot, but now it's slowed down to almost like if I don't watch what I eat, it actually goes back up again. So I'm actually going to talk about all this in another video. Probably I think next week I'm going to do a video on like my goal to lose some weight and stuff, and I'll go like more detail into like my weight and things like that. But yeah, so I just wanted to say like the fact that I gained 40 pounds, lost 20, so now I need to lose that other 20. Well, it might be 15, I can't remember how much I've got left to lose. But yeah, there was that, and like I'll go back as well to the fact that because I had stitches, and everyone always goes on about the fact that, because I was dreading this when I found out that I had stitches. I was like, oh no, this is going to be super painful. But I've never had stitches before. The only time I've actually had anything close to stitches was, is it this one? Yeah, this eyebrow. When I was at uni, I got thrown into an iron girder that was holding up a roof in a chicken shed. Don't ask me why. But yeah, it split my head open. Like I had a big gash down my eyebrow here. And because everyone had been at the pub, everyone was too drunk to take me to the hospital or anything. So they had to wait till the next day for someone to sober up and actually drive me. I think it was to like the local GP. And I just got an emergency appointment and they just glued it back together. And then put like a little bit of like some plasters on it, and then that was it. But that's the closest I've ever had, because they said if they'd taken me as soon as it had happened, I would have had to have had stitches. But because they'd left it, it had already started to heal, so they said there was no point in stitches, so they just glued it. So that's the closest I've ever had to stitches in my life before. So so the fact I had quite a few underneath, I was a bit like, oh no, and obviously because I had forceps, and because they cut me, I had a spinal injection, which meant that I was completely paralysed basically from the waist down. So as soon as my son was born, I just couldn't move for probably about 12 hours, probably even more than that, because my legs were just completely numb, and like underneath was numb. I had a catheter in, couldn't feel that, because obviously I couldn't go a wee or anything like that. But yeah, as soon as I started to feel like the feeling started to come back, I didn't really feel anything underneath. Like I was doing the whole thing of being careful, like I wasn't moving about too much, and that was a horrible feeling as well. Like when I first left the hospital and went shopping with my husband, I've never felt like I was about to pass out when I was trying to walk like my regular pace. I just felt so exhausted, and you just don't realise, I don't think, you take it for granted. You think you can just snap back after pregnancy, but you don't. You really, ever since that I've realised that you really do have to take it easy. But yeah, back to the stitches. Yeah, with it, like I said, I think with that I felt like I was back to normal pretty much, because obviously I just still had that big belly or whatever, because I didn't really feel anything underneath. Like I said, I thought I would feel like someone's done a load of crochet underneath. But other than a little bit of bruising, I didn't really feel anything, I think. And they were dissolvable stitches as well, so I didn't have to worry about anyone coming to take them out or whatever. But in the 6 weeks after the baby was born, that's when you get the appointments with the midwife. The midwife comes and checks your stitches. And yeah, she said that they were healing really well and they were dissolving really quickly. The only thing I can remember having, like I could definitely feel there were stitches. Obviously you have to check yourself when you like, because I was having baths instead of showers, and like I was checking myself underneath and I could feel the stitches. Like I wasn't really touching them too much, but I could feel it. It's like, ooh, feeling something foreign down there. It's not very nice. But yeah, as they were dissolving, there was a knot, and I don't know what had happened. I don't know if it was because it was in the process of dissolving or what happened, but it started to really pinch underneath if I moved in a specific position. But yeah, I couldn't really sit on a sofa without feeling quite uncomfortable for a while. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really feel anything else. And like everyone goes on about, like when you go your first wee and like your first number 2, so like your first poo after having the baby. I mean, my first poo, I just won't go into that, but that was just unpleasant because I've been taking loads of laxatives anyway. My first wee and every single wee in my recovery, I never felt any stinging. I mean, I was dreading it, because like when I was like, and they always say like you should lean forward on the toilet and always have a jug of warm water with you as well, so you can pour that over yourself as you wee to dilute the wee, because obviously it can really burn, it can really sting, because the ammonia in your wee will just really sort of not be pleasant. But yeah, I didn't feel anything like that. Like I said, I just felt really, really bruised underneath, and like I had to sit in the back of the car when we went shopping. Like I couldn't sit on anything too hard, so the sofa was just enough for me, and I always tried to sit sort of on my side of like my thigh, so I'd like tuck my legs up on the sofa and then sit on my side rather than directly like on my bum, so to speak. But obviously when we're going out in the car and the car seat's quite hard, I'd put a cushion down, but that didn't really help. And then when you're going over speed bumps, and that would just be like really painful. But yeah, other than that, I didn't really have any more sort of pains or anything like that. But I was quite lucky, like I said, when my midwife came round, I can't even remember how long it was after the birth. It might have been like 10 days or something when she came round. And yeah, she checked and she said everything's healing really nicely. And I think my healing process was actually really quick. Like I didn't really go through anything major. I mean, a lot of people get infections. Like I said, they're scared to go to the toilet because it hurts so much and stuff like that. But I never had anything like that. It was only, again, it's bloody annoying because it was after the 6 weeks, once I'd been signed off, that the issues started to happen. So I went to, I'm trying to think who it was. No, I had an appointment with a physiotherapist. I think it was a physiotherapist who basically they check. Yeah, no, it's basically, I'm remembering now, it's all coming back to me. They give you an appointment if you have a tear. You have to go back to the hospital to go through these physiotherapy classes. And in the first one was just an introduction into terms of what you should be eating, so you're not straining yourself too much when you go to the toilet, and also you're not like doing yourself any further injury or anything like that. And like they go over the healing process and everything with you. And at this point, it's when I noticed something wasn't right, because every time I was going to number 2, it was really hurting, and like I was having to strain quite a bit to go to the toilet, even though I was taking laxatives. And basically what I found out was, because I was breastfeeding, and I was eating a lot of fibre, but apparently I was eating the wrong fibre and I wasn't drinking enough. So what that was doing is, because obviously when you're on laxatives you're supposed to be drinking a lot of fluid, so I was basically drying myself out, so my poo wasn't, again TMI, but it should be a lot softer, and it was, because it was quite hard, it just meant I basically tore underneath. So I tore in the front passage and also in the back passage, and while the front passage healed nicely, the back passage was just having like constant issues. So this is what this woman said to me. She was like, oh, you should be eating this, this and this. So like brown bread you should avoid, brown pasta, brown rice and stuff like that you should avoid, because that's the wrong sort of fibre you should be having. You'd be having, like, I think it was like grains and nuts and just plenty of fruit, plenty of veg, and that will keep you regular, but also keep you soft as well, so you're not straining to go to the toilet. So then my second appointment was, again, it was about my front passage, like the main one, basically because you have to do a lot of your pelvic exercises. So and that's another thing they were teaching in the first class. So like, you should be doing this, you need to get into a routine of doing them, because again, they don't tell you this after you've had the baby, but you like, everything just feels a bit loose down there. Like you can't like clench when you go a wee and things like that, and it's just the weirdest feeling. So yeah, so basically they tell you to do these exercises, and then you go back, I think it's like 3 weeks later, it might have even been 6 weeks later, I can't remember. But they tell you to go back, and what they do is they then give you an internal examination to see if the strength is coming back, and if it's not, then they'll want to see you again. So I had to go back because my pelvic floor muscles weren't that great, and also because she checked to see, and she was the one that actually told me I'd torn in my back passage as well. So what she actually did was she got me an appointment, or she told me to go to the doctor and get some like this gel to put up my back passage, and what that did was it concentrated the blood flow to the area to make it heal quicker. And she said what it will do, it will give you headaches, because obviously the blood's not going to your head, it's rushing down to your bottom, so it will give you a headache, but just don't use too much. Annoyingly, when I went to the doctor, she was like, no, I can't give you this because you're breastfeeding and you can't have it when you're breastfeeding, which apparently is a load of bullshit. So I was in a lot of pain because of that, because she refused to give it to me. She gave me something else, which was just, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was just like a antibiotic cream that that was meant to numb the pain, but it did sod all. So I really wasn't happy with her. Although she was quite good at telling me, because my son had really bad cradle cap, so she told me to use olive oil, scrub olive oil in his hair, leave it in for a few hours and then wash it out with a really gentle shampoo. And we use Child's Farm, and I swear by Child's Farm. Child's Farm is really, really good. She said don't use Johnson's, because Johnson's is actually really, really bad for babies, especially babies with sensitive skin. And that's what I'd been using, because obviously we'd had a lot as sort of baby shower presents for my son, so I had quite a lot of Johnson's stuff, and he just had like really dry skin, and no matter how much I was using the Johnson stuff, it just weren't getting any better. And she said it's because you're using Johnson's. So yeah, so stay away from Johnson's if you can. So that was, well, that was basically my experience with the GP. And then a couple of weeks after that, I actually had my final appointment, which was with the gynecologist, and he's the one that checks to make sure everything's okay, and he's the one that signs you off. And I think this was actually 12 weeks after after my son was born, because obviously I had to go in a bit longer because of the stuff that I'd gone through, so I was signed on for a bit longer. And yeah, and he checked everything for me. So he checked the front, and he said everything's fine. He said you've been doing obviously your pelvic floor workout, so it's going back. He said, but obviously keep doing them. He said you should technically be doing them every day. Every woman should be doing them every day, because you don't want to end up with a prolapse in older life, which can happen even if you don't actually have a baby. So note that one. And he also checked my back passage, and he was the one that said that yeah, you could see it was really like quite a bad tear. And he said there was hemorrhoids as well, and but he said, which is natural obviously after if you've pushed quite hard trying to give birth. But he said, but they weren't too bad. But he said the tear was obviously the more important thing, because that was causing me a lot of discomfort. So he said about he actually then prescribed me the gel that the previous woman had gone on about, and it really, really helped for a time. But again, I think it was the whole thing because I was breastfeeding. And I'm just one of those people, I'm so naughty. I don't drink enough. I try, but I really have to consciously think about how much I'm drinking, and like force myself to drink water, because I'm not really a massive fan of water. I can drink water if I've got like a cordial in it or something, but yeah, I just can't sit there and glug massive amount of water. So I was on laxatives, I was on this gel, but I was still struggling. I was trying to drink so much water, but I could only go so far. So to be honest, I'm actually still suffering with it a lot now. Not so much as I was then. Literally, I would be sat in tears. I'd be dreading going to the toilet every time. It was horrible. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, to be honest. It's like you don't realise how you take it for granted when you need the loo, and you can just pop on the loo and do your business sort of thing and not have any issues. Like I'd go through a time where I'd be able to go and that was the thing as well, because there'd be a lot of blood, because like the tear would heal up over time, and then I need to go again and it would just open up again, and it would be so painful. But then I go through a time where like the amount of blood would get less and less. I was like, oh good, it's healing. Then there'd be no blood, and then I go through like 2 days of being constipated and wouldn't be able to go, so then it would open up again the next time I went, because obviously I was straining to go. So that's been going on now, like I said, since probably about a month after he was born, so nearly 10 months. Obviously I still have the hemorrhoids. I tried to, is it Germaloid, I think the cream is, that's meant to help you shrink hemorrhoids, but yeah, they're still there, which is obviously really annoying. And I'm tempted to have that surgery, but then I heard that surgery is really, really unpleasant and really painful, and I don't know if it's worth it. But I won't bore you or like gross you out with that. But yeah, that's currently where we are with everything. So I can't really think about what else I can say about my recovery, like I said, because I think I've had it quite easy in terms of just how everything healed up quite quickly, apart from obviously the toilet issues. Everything else has actually been not so bad, and obviously with my stomach, but then that's not something that's stopping me from living my life, so to speak. I'm not like stuck in the house all the time because I'm too scared to go out or whatever, or I'm in a lot of pain and stuff like that. But I will say, to those of you that are or you're soon to be a mum, or you've just become a mum, really do take it seriously when they say take it easy for the first 6 weeks, because I know it's you think there's things that need to be done. That washing can wait. You don't have to get the Hoover out. You can wait. You can live off takeaways for 6 weeks. Honestly, it's fine. Just like, obviously the baby's a priority, but so are you, and you really need to make sure you look after yourself and other people are helping you to look after yourself, because what's going to happen, like if something happens to you because you haven't looked after yourself and you end up being really ill and having to go to hospital, or you can't look after the baby because like your conditions have got worse, or you just don't know. So it's fine for you to be a little selfish after that baby's born and you look after yourself as well as that baby. You can think about yourself, it's fine. That's people don't say that it's always about the baby when a baby's born, but it also needs to be about the mum as well, and people don't say that enough, and it's quite depressing really, and quite dangerous as well. Girls, take it easy. But I think that's all I'm gonna say on the subject. Again, I don't really want it to be too long a video, but then I don't know really what else I can say. I mean, if anyone else, if any of you guys have any questions, like you're a bit apprehensive about what your recovery is going to be like, or you are recovering and you've had a very different experience to me, I'd love to hear from you, like get a discussion going. Or like I said, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them as best I can. Just leave comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also really help us out by supporting us on Patreon, because that will really help me to keep motivated to keep the channel going as well. And yeah, I think I'll call it a day and say it was lovely to speak to you, and I shall see you all in the next video. Bye!